Hey guys, this is Nod Lammers of Invoked 101. Welcome back, and today we're taking a look at the updated Gravekeeper's deck post Banlist. So this is just a quick update to this deck. A bit of it has changed, and by a bit I mean like just general ratios of things and adding things to it just to make it a bit better. But before we get into the deck profile, as always, I gotta mention down in the description we got a Patreon, so if you feel like checking that out and supporting the channel, that's the way to do it. You can get you guys some cool stuff such as a Invoked 101 mat. Then there's also a Teespring link down there, so you can get yourself an Invoked 101 shirt or hoodie or whatever else we got posted up there. And then of course there's also the link to the Discord if you feel like chatting with us. So with that out of the way, we're gonna move the spells, traps, and extra deck off the side and get right into the monsters. First monster we're playing is Gravekeeper Spiritualist at 3. This is the fusion monster, not the fusion monster, but the monster that has the fusion effect on it. So it says, during your main phase, if Necrovalley is on the field, you can fusion summon one spellcaster fusion monster from your extra deck using this card you control and other monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. You can only use this effect of Spiritualist once per turn. 1500 attack, 1500 defense, so it'll be 2k, 2k with Necrovalley on board. And then Gravekeeper's Headman at 2. I was playing 3 of this in my last profile for Gravekeepers, but I felt that bumping it down to 2 is definitely the way to go with this. So, just because you're not always going to have something in Grave, and he only triggers, oh no, he triggers off any summon. But yeah, anyway, his effect is, if this card is summoned, you can target a level 4 Gravekeeper's monster in your graveyard, special summon it in attack position or face down defense. You can only use this effect of Headman once per turn. This effect is unaffected by Necrovalley. So, that's pretty cool. Then we, of course, have one really good Gravekeeper, and that is Recruiter. Recruiter is, in my opinion, one of the best Gravekeeper's monsters. So its effect is, if this card you control is sent to your graveyard, add one Gravekeeper's monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand. So that triggers off of the sent by fusion summon, sent by linking away, just overall a really good effect on this guy. And then we play triple Gravekeeper's Heretic. This guy says, this card is unaffected. This card on the field is unaffected by all other card effects as long as Necrovalley is also on the field. That does include Necrovalley, so he won't gain the 500 attack point boost, but we're playing a card in here that makes him pretty good. And then one of the last Gravekeepers we play is Gravekeeper's Commandant. This guy has the effect to discard himself and then add Necrovalley from deck to hand, but he does have to go to the graveyard for it to resolve. And then the last one we play is Gravekeeper's Spy. So this guy said he has a flip effect that says special summon one Gravekeeper's monster with 1500 or less attack from the deck. So there we go. That's it for the monsters in the deck. So all Gravekeepers, a little bit smaller ratio for some of them, but definitely I think is a better number overall. Moving into the spells and traps, we of course are starting with triple Necrovalley. I finally got myself a playset of Duelist Saga ones, which I believe these are the most updated ones outside of the Speed Duel ones, but I don't think this is actually a card in Speed Duels. I think it's a skill. It says all Gravekeeper's monsters gain 500 attack and defense. Cards in the graveyards cannot be banished. Negate any card effect that would move a card in the graveyard to a different place. Negate any card effect that changes types or attributes in the graveyard. So it basically says no called by the grave, no graveyard effects that banish for their effects, just none of that, which is pretty great. And then we have one of the best Gravekeeper's cards so far. This is Necrovalley Throne. This is one of the newer cards from Soul Fusion and is just an amazing card overall. So its effect is you get to activate one of 2 effects, and the first effect is add a Gravekeeper's monster from your deck to your hand, which is pretty awesome. And then it has another effect which gives you an extra normal summon for a Gravekeeper's monster. You can only activate one Necrovalley Throne per turn, which kind of sucks because you do end up, there's been turns where I end up with like all 3 of these in my hand, which kind of, but it's all right. And then I play triple Allure of Darkness. The majority of the deck is dark, so, but yeah, German commons, which I thought was really funny. These were the cheapest ones on TCG Player, and I was like, oh, German commons, let's do it. After that, we have 2 Royal Tribute. This card is pretty awesome. So it says this card can only be activated when Necrovalley is on the field. Both players must discard all monster cards from their hand to the graveyard. So basically how this works is you try to spit out as many monsters as you can and then just activate this, or you just activate Necrovalley, activate this, and your opponent and you both must get rid of all your Gravekeepers, which is pretty, not all your Gravekeepers, all your monsters, which is pretty funny. Then we have 2 Hidden Temples of Necrovalley. This card says Activate only if both a Gravekeeper's monster and Necrovalley are on the field. Neither player can special summon monsters except Gravekeeper's monsters. If either a Gravekeeper's monster or Necrovalley is not on the field, destroy this card. So the kind of crappy part about this card is that if... hang on. Okay, the kind of crappy part about this card is that if you have 2 Gravekeepers on the field and you fuse them into Spiritualist, this will get destroyed when both of them leave the field. Because there was, at one point, there was no Gravekeeper on the board, which kind of sucks. And then we have, for the last spell card, 1 Gravekeeper's Steal. And this says, select target 2 Gravekeepers in your graveyard, add them to your hand. This card is not negated by Necrovalley. So that's pretty good. And then we have the traps. We are playing triple Solemn Judgment now that this is off the list. This was a big buff to this deck. So very excited to add this to the deck and just have more negates to keep the opponent from doing stuff. Then we have even more negates in the form of Imperial Tombs of Necrovalley. I was playing 3 of this originally, but now I'm playing just 2. It says when a spell, trap card, trap card, or monster effect is activated while both the Gravekeepers and Necrovalley are on the board, negate the activation if you do destroy it. You can only activate 1 Imperial Tombs per turn. So pretty nuts. And then here's the card I was talking about with Heretic, is Torrential Tribute. So how it works is you set this, and then you summon the Heretic, and then you flip this over and wipe the board. But Heretic gets to stay as long as Necrovalley is on board. Then we have 1 Necrovalley Throne. I felt that this card, I was playing this at 2 originally, but I feel that it's only worth really playing 1 of now because it's searchable off the other card. It says, while Gravekeeper's monster and Necrovalley are both on field, monsters your opponent controls lose 500 attack and defense. Once per turn during the main phase, if you control no card in your field zone, you can activate 1 Necrovalley directly from your hand or graveyard. This card in possession is destroyed by your opponent's effect and sent to your graveyard. You can set 1 Necrovalley spell or trap directly from your deck except Necrovalley Throne. And then we're playing Rite of Spirit, which is kind of like the Monster Reborn for Gravekeepers. It says, select 1 monster card that includes, target a Gravekeeper in your graveyard and special summon it and face up attack or defense position. This card is not negated by Necrovalley. It's a really old card, so it has some crazy old wording on there, like select that includes Gravekeeper. Yeah, it's weird. And then the last new card we're playing is Imperial Order, because we are playing a lot of traps in here, and we don't necessarily need all the spells, although Necrovalley is kind of important, but if you can't get to Necrovalley and you end up having this, then it's not a bad idea to use it. And then we have the extra deck. So we'll get right into that. We do have some new stuff in the extra deck that I want to show off. So of course we are playing the mandatory triple Supernaturalist. This is the Necrovalley, the Supernatural, the Gravekeeper's fusion monster. So it needs 2 Gravekeeper's monsters, and it has the effect of gaining attack and defense equal to the combined original levels of the materials used for its fusion summon times 100. While Necrovalley is on the field, this card and any card in your field zone cannot be destroyed by card effects. During your main phase, you can activate this effect. During the end phase of this turn, add 1 Gravekeeper's monster or Necrovalley card from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Gravekeeper Supernaturalist once per turn. And it starts at 2k, but it quickly gets up to like 38 or 28. It gets big, especially since the Necrovalley on board will buff it by 500. And then if you use 2 level 4s, then he'll gain 800. So he'll be gaining 13. So like 33. So he's kind of beefy. And then we have Abyss Dweller to negate graveyard effects. And then we have Wee Witch, since they're all dark. Underclock Taker to shrink stuff. And Borreload Dragon. Now that I have like an abundance of Borreload Dragons, there's no reason not to play it in like everything, so. But yeah, and then of course you can fill this with other rank 4s, other link monsters that you can make with it. I just felt that like, since like Gravekeepers don't really need that big of an extra deck, you could also probably play Pot of Extravagance in this deck if you really wanted to, just because you could fill it up with whatever you really wanted. And then as long as you have the 3 Supernaturalists, you're like fine. So you can really play whatever you want in the extra deck. Since it doesn't really matter. But yeah, that's it for Gravekeepers. It's a really fun deck. It's definitely a retro deck that still has some viability down at locals. And I think that there was something recent where Gravekeepers actually got got pretty far at a regional. But yeah, definitely a fun deck, definitely a deck worth picking up if you're looking for something a little bit more classic, a little bit retro, and especially since Gravekeepers, I believe it was either Gravekeepers or Harpies that were the first ever archetype in Yu-Gi-Oh! So if you're looking for something like that, there you go. And it's also a really fun deck that's a really fun stun deck. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Wired, I want to know what your thoughts were on this deck down in the comments below, and while you're down there, feel free to check out the description, which like I said, it has the link to the Patreon, the Teespring, and the Discord down there, and I will see you guys in the next video.